There is this specific moment that happens, usually late at night, maybe right after you have brushed your teeth and you are staring at the bathroom mirror, or you are just lying in bed scrolling through your banking app, and you have this sudden, sharp pang of anxiety. You are checking your balance, right? And you see the numbers there. Maybe you have been working for 5 years, maybe 10, maybe you are just getting started, but you look at that number, and then you look at your age, and you do this horrible mental calculation where you try to figure out if what you have is anywhere close to what you are going to need. It is that quiet, nagging feeling that asks, am I doing this right? Is this ever going to get easier? Because honestly, for most of us, the grind feels endless. You put in the hours, you sock away the money, you try to be responsible, and yet, the distance between where you are and true financial freedom feels like an ocean you are trying to cross with a teaspoon. My name is Zach, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. I do not say that to brag, honestly, it is probably a little bit of a problem. I find myself obsessing over the tipping points, the specific moments in a financial life where the game completely changes. And I realized recently that we talk a lot about how to save money, and we talk a lot about how to invest, but we do not talk nearly enough about what happens on the other side of that massive milestone we are all chasing. I am talking about the $1 million mark. And look, I know, $1 million is not what it used to be. We hear that all the time. Depending on where you live, it might feel like a comfortable middle-class retirement, or it might just feel like not broke. But psychologically, mathematically, and practically, hitting $1 million in invested assets, it is not just a number. It is a fundamental shift in physics. Everything changes. The stress does not just evaporate, but it transmutes into something totally different. Today, I want to walk you through that transformation. I want to show you exactly why the first million is the hardest, what actually shifts in your brain and your bank account when you cross that line, and why, once you get there, the second million feels like it falls out of the sky. It is a strange, beautiful, and slightly confusing place to be, and if you understand how it works now, it might just be the thing that keeps you going when the grind feels too heavy. So, let us start with the most obvious, yet most misunderstood change, the mechanics of how your money grows. When you are starting from zero, or even when you have, say, $50,000 or $100,000 saved up, you are the engine. You are the proverbial locomotive chugging up a steep mountain. Every single dollar that gets added to your account is there because you worked for it. You sweated over it. You traded hours of your life, your skills, your patience, for that cash, and then you had to have the discipline not to spend it on a nicer car or a bigger TV. It is a push system. You are pushing the boulder uphill. And honestly, that is exhausting. It feels heavy because it is heavy. But when you cross the $1 million threshold, something wild happens. The boulder crests the hill. For the first time, the money you have already saved starts to do more work than the money you are currently saving. Let me give you a concrete example because numbers can be dry and I want this to feel real. Let us assume, for the sake of simplicity, a relatively conservative 7% average annual return in the stock market. If you have $1 million invested, that money is generating, on average, around $70,000 a year just by existing. Think about that for a second. $70,000. Now, compare that to your savings rate. The average person saving diligently might be able to put away $10,000, $15,000, maybe even $20,000 a year if they are really living lean and earning well. When you hit that million, your portfolio is kicking out 3 or 4 times what you could possibly save in a year from your job. You have effectively built an employee that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never calls in sick, never complains, and has 0 salary requirements. That is the shift from push to pull. It is no longer just you pushing the snowball up the hill. Now, the snowball is rolling downhill on its own, pulling you along with it. I remember talking to a guy named Dave a few years ago. He was a plumber, just a regular guy, lived in a modest house in the Midwest. He hit his first million around age 50. He told me, "Zach, I checked my account one Monday. and I realized I had made more money over the weekend while I was grilling burgers and watching football than I made all week busting my knuckles under sinks. That is the psychological turning point. You stop feeling like Sisyphus, and you start feeling like, well, you start feeling like the owner of the casino. This matters for you because it changes your incentive structure. When you are in the push phase, the incentive is deprivation. You have to say no to everything. You have to pack your lunch, you have to drive the old car, you have to skip the vacation. It requires willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, it runs out. But once you shift to the pull phase, the incentives change to abundance. You see your balance go up by $2,000 in a random Tuesday, and suddenly you do not need willpower to keep investing. You want to. You want to feed the beast because you can see the beast is finally feeding you back. Here is something that nobody really talks about, and I think it is actually kind of funny in a dark way. One of the biggest changes that happens after you hit $1 million is you get bored. Not bored with life, there is plenty to do, but bored with the standard financial drama. You see, when you are broke or struggling to get by, money is this intense, emotional thriller. It is an action movie. There is a cliffhanger every month. Will the car break down? Will the rent go up? Will I have enough for groceries? There is this constant adrenaline spike of anxiety and then relief when the paycheck hits. It is miserable, but it is also stimulating. It keeps you on your toes. You feel alive because you are fighting for survival. But once you have $1 million invested, the movie turns into a documentary. A slow-paced, very quiet documentary about paint drying. The drama evaporates. You want a new laptop? You buy it. You need to go to the dentist? You go. The car makes a weird noise. You take it to the mechanic without checking your balance first. It sounds amazing, and it is, do not get me wrong, but humans are weird creatures. We are wired to solve problems. We are wired to overcome obstacles. When your biggest obstacle, lack of money, suddenly vanishes, you are left with this strange void. I noticed this myself. There was a period where I stopped checking my accounts as obsessively. When I was building, I checked every day. Sometimes twice a day. It was emotional fuel. But after a certain point, I realized, nothing bad is going to happen if I look away. The number is just going to get bigger. The absence of crisis is peaceful, but it is also oddly disorienting. This boredom leads to a new danger, though. And this is the actionable part one want you to hear. When the money game is won, or at least when you feel like you are winning by a landslide, people tend to get stupid with their money because they are bored. They start looking for excitement. They start gambling on individual stocks they do not understand, or they get talked into investment opportunities by their brother-in-law who found a cannot-miss deal on a car wash in Arizona. This is why you see stories of lottery winners or athletes who go broke. It is not usually because they bought too many houses, although they do that too. It is because they needed the action. They needed the thrill. So, if you hit $1 million, you have to be aware of this boredom paradox. You have to find excitement elsewhere. Do not let your money be your source of entertainment. Find a hobby. Learn to fly a plane, take up woodworking, climb a mountain. Keep your brain occupied so you do not accidentally blow up your portfolio just to feel something. Okay, let us pivot to something a little more practical and, honestly, a little more empowering. We talked about the math, we talked about the psychology, but let us talk about your day-to-day life. The single biggest change that happens when you have $1 million invested is the power of no. Most of us live our lives in a state of yes. We say yes to the boss we hate because we need the paycheck. We say yes to the commute that drains our soul because we need the health insurance. We say yes to clients who are disrespectful, or projects that are boring, or social obligations we would rather skip because we feel trapped by our financial needs. We are hostages to our own expenses. But $1 million invested, that is your bail bond. It is your get-out-of-jail-free card. Let us be realistic about the numbers again, just so I am not selling you a fantasy here. If you have $1 million, You cannot necessarily buy a mega yacht and retire to a private island tomorrow. But if you follow the 4% rule, which is a standard safe withdrawal rate, that $1 million generates $40,000 a year. Add that to a part-time job that you actually enjoy, or maybe a small side hustle, or Social Security down the road, and suddenly you do not need the soul-crushing corporate salary anymore. I have a friend, Sarah, who hit this milestone about 3 years ago. She was a marketing executive. High stress, high travel, always on email. She did not hate the work, but she hated the obligation of it. She hit her million, and she did not quit. She just renegotiated. She walked into her boss's office and said, "I love this company, but I cannot do 60 hours a week anymore. I am dropping to 30 hours. If you need me for more, you will have to find someone else." Before she had that money, that conversation would have been career suicide. It would have been terrifying. But because she had the million in the bank, she did not care what the answer was. If they said no, she would have walked. They said yes. That is the power of fuck you money, as they call it. It is not about telling people to screw off, it is about having the option to. Why does this matter to you? It matters because the pursuit of this freedom is a worthy goal in itself. When you are saving $20 a week and it feels pointless, you are not just saving for a nice dinner later. You are saving for your dignity. You are saving for your autonomy. You are buying back the right to determine how you spend your own time. That, to me, is the true definition of wealth. It is not the stuff, it is the control over your own existence. Now, I have to hit you with a warning here, because this is the part where the wheels fall off for a lot of people. We have all heard of lifestyle inflation, right? You get a raise, you buy a bigger house. You get a bonus, you buy a nicer car. But when you hit $1 million, the temptation is not just to buy nicer things. It is to buy a different life entirely. Suddenly, people treat you differently. Friends might start looking at you as the rich one. Family members might have ideas about loans. You might feel a pressure to look the part. I have $1 million. Why am I still shopping at Costco? Why am I still wearing these jeans? You start justifying upgrades that are not really upgrades, they are just expenses. I fell into this trap a little bit myself, not with big purchases, but with convenience. I started paying for things I used to do myself because, hey, I can afford it. I hired a lawn service. I started ordering delivery instead of cooking. I upgraded my gym membership to the fancy one with the towels and the sauna. It seemed harmless. It was just a few $100s here and there. But here is the insidious thing about having a lot of money, the stakes get higher. When you have $10,000 in the bank, a bad financial decision costs you $500. That sucks, but you can recover from it. When you have $1 million, you start looking at bigger toys. You start looking at vacation homes, or angel investing, or buying a franchise. A bad decision there is not $500, it is $50,000 or $100,000. And because your pile of money is so big, you feel safe. You feel like the boat is too big to sink. So, the change that happens after you hit $1 million is that you actually have to become more disciplined, not less. You have to guard your lifestyle like a hawk. Because the irony is, if you let your spending grow to match your net worth, you will never feel rich. You will just feel broke at a higher level. There is a famous quote, I think it might be from Fight Club or maybe just general wisdom, that says the things you own end up owning you. That is never truer than when you have 7 figures. If you buy $1 million house, you do not own the house owns you. It demands taxes, insurance, maintenance, and your time. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Hitting $1 million gives you the option to upgrade your lifestyle, but the smartest thing you can do is upgrade your peace of mind instead. Keep the cheap car, keep the simple habits, and enjoy the feeling of knowing that if the world goes sideways, you are the fortress. This brings me to a slightly philosophical point, but stick with me. For years, probably decades, you have obsessed over a specific number. You have had this goalpost in your head. If I just hit $100,000, I will be safe. Then you hit it, and it does not feel like enough. So you move the goalposts. Okay, $500,000. That is the real safety net. Then you hit that, and you move it to $1 million. The strange thing that happens when you actually arrive at $1 million is that the number itself starts to lose its meaning. It becomes just a digit on a screen. I remember the day I crossed the threshold. I was sitting in my home office. I refreshed the page. The numbers flipped. And I waited for the confetti to fall from the ceiling. I waited for the angels to sing. I waited for this cosmic shift in my personality where I would suddenly feel calm and wise and wealthy. And nothing happened. I was just me, sitting in the same chair, with the same slightly sore back, drinking the same lukewarm coffee. It was a bit of a letdown, honestly. But then, over the next few weeks, I realized that the change was not a lightning bolt, it was a slow sunrise. The anxiety was not gone, but it was quieter. The background noise of survival had been turned down. The obsession with a specific number, $1 million, is a motivator, but it is also a trap. Once you get there, you realize that money is not a scorecard. It is a tool. And just like holding a heavy hammer does not make you a carpenter, having a lot of money does not make you wealthy if you do not know how to use it to build a life you actually like. There is a real danger here called the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much money you make, you adjust to it. You get used to it. You start looking at the people who have $5 million or $10 million, and you feel poor again. It is ridiculous when you say it out loud, but it is real. So, the change that has to happen in your mind is a shift from accumulation to application. You stop asking how much more can I get? And you start asking what can this do for me? What can this do for the people I love? What can this do for the world? I saw a study once about happiness and money. It said that happiness correlates with income up to about $75,000 or $100,000 a year, and then it plateaus. And while there is some debate about the exact number, the general principle holds: once your basic needs and security are met, more money does not linearly equal more happiness. Hitting $1 million puts you in that position where you have the security. The rest is up to you. You have to do the internal work to be happy, because the money is never going to do that part for you. It can remove the stress of the electric bill, but it cannot fix your relationship with your dad, and it cannot give you a sense of purpose. I want to touch on one last thing, a social dynamic that shifts when you hit this level. This is one of the more awkward parts of the journey. When you are struggling financially, you commiserate with your friends. You complain about gas prices together. You bond over being broke. It is a shared struggle, and there is a weird camaraderie in it. But when you become the person with $1 million, you become the outsider. I found myself biting my tongue a lot. When friends complain about money, I cannot join in. If I complain, it sounds tone-deaf. Oh, your 401k is down 10%? Yeah, mine is too, and that is, a lot of money, so I get it. But you cannot say that. You have to nod and sympathize. You have to code switch. And then there is the requests for help. This starts small. Hey, can you spot me for lunch? Then it gets bigger. We are thinking of starting a business. Can we pick your brain? Then it gets even bigger. We really want to buy a house, but the bank is being difficult about the down payment. You have to learn to set boundaries. And that is surprisingly hard. You want to be generous. You have the means to be generous. But if you solve everyone else's problems, you become a problem. You become a bank, not a friend. And banks get resented when they say no. One of the biggest changes after $1 million is that you have to become a stealthy guardian of your wealth. You learn that no is a complete sentence. You learn that true generosity is strategic, not just emotional. You set up a budget for giving, just like you have a budget for groceries. And if someone asks for something outside of that, you politely decline. It changes your relationships. You realize who your real friends are, the ones who loved you when you were broke and who love you now that you are not, and who was just along for the ride. It is a painful filtering process, but ultimately, it leaves you with a circle of people who actually value you, not what you can do for them. So, where does all this leave us? We have talked about the math, the snowball rolling downhill, the shift from pushing to pulling. We have talked about the boredom, the strange quiet that settles in when the fight for survival ends. We have talked about the dangerous temptation to inflate your lifestyle just because you can, and the awkward social dynamics of being the rich one in the room. Hitting $1 million invested is a massive achievement. Statistically, it puts you in a tiny minority of the population. It is a testament to your